everybody, welcome to this month's Choose Your Own Book Club. And this month we're talking all things graphic novels. Graphic novels are awesome. We love graphic novels at Reading Public Library. And this year actually, a graphic novel won one of the biggest awards that you can win for children's literature. It won the Newbery Medal, which is a huge deal. In the past, graphic novels have won Newbery honors, but the medal itself, the big award, went to a graphic novel this year, and I'm sure you know which one it is. It's New Kid by Jerry Craft. How exciting is that? It was an MCBA last year. It's on the middle school reading list. I'm sure you've read it, and if you haven't, I highly encourage you to do so. And if you have read it and you loved it, I have great news, which is that Jerry Craft wrote a second book called Class Act, and it's coming out in October. I'm so excited. Now, I'm sure some grown-ups might be a little weary or cautious about graphic novels. Some people might say they are not real books, but they are. They're awesome. They are definitely real books. When you are a kid and you're reading a picture book with a grown-up, the grown-up is reading the words to you and you're looking down at the picture and you're hearing the words and trying to put a story together with the picture that's on the page and the words you're listening to. And that's a huge comprehension skill. That's the same exact thing you're doing when you're reading a graphic novel. You're reading the words and you're looking at the picture and you're putting a story together, because sometimes the words don't match up with the picture. Like, you'll read a sentence and look at the picture and go, that's not what I thought was gonna happen, or that's not the expression I would make when I say this. And that's a huge comprehension skill to do, and it takes a great reader to be able to do that. Now, graphic novels, of course, are not for everybody. I'll admit, when I was a kid, they weren't for me, but as an adult, I've grown to love them and cherish them and recommend them whenever I can, because they're really, really great to read, especially in the summer. They're quick, they're fun, and they're filled with color and adventure. And I hope that you try a couple of these, because you can always read one and read about 10 pages in and go, this isn't for me. And that's fine. You can put it away. Try a different one. There's so many out there. You could do that with any book, really. And so this Choose Your Own Book Club video is for all you graphic novel lovers out there. So let's hear about some great graphic novels that have come into Reading Public Library recently.
The first graphic novel that I'm going to recommend today is called Drew and Jot, Dueling Doodles. It is by Art Baltazar, and he creates and works on also the All Yeah Comics series and the Tiny Titans series. So if you like those series, you'll probably like this one a lot. It's got a really similar artistic style with the thick black lines and the scribbly, bright, bold colors. So this is a story about two fifth grade friends named Andrew and Foz. Andrew's new at school, but he and Foz make fast friends on the very first day because they both love to draw in their sketchbooks and they both love creating their own comics and their own characters. Andrew has a character that he created called Drew, and Drew is a superhero with this really cool laser beam glasses that pew pew shoots lasers at people. And Drew has a superhero dog sidekick named Jot. And Foz has created his own character named Dr. Danger, who is the most evil thing to ever exist in all of evilness. And so they have fun making friends and drawing their characters together. And then Andrew's sister gets involved, and she draws a new superhero called the Phenomenally Super Awesome Bombastic Fantastic. And that is a superhero alien from another dimension. And these three characters are having their own adventures in this book. They're jumping back and forth between the pages of each other's sketchbooks, and they're having adventures battling super gross, weird monsters. And then separately, the kids in real life in the book are also interacting and having dinner with their families and going to school and stuff like that. So the book kind of jumps back and forth between these two worlds. It is definitely action-packed. It's funny. It's got a bunch of crazy, gross, weird monsters and cool characters. And if you like to draw and like superheroes and funny action I bet you would really like it. I recommend it to elementary school readers who, love comics, adventures, funny things. And like I said, especially if you like Tiny Titans or Aya comics, you'd probably like this one as well. It is available via curbside, and it is also available on Hoopla Digital online.
Another terrific graphic novel I want to tell you about is called Catherine's War. It was written originally as a novel and then became a graphic novel recently. It was written by Julia Billet, who is a French novelist, and it was illustrated by Claire Fauvel, who is a French illustrator. And they came together to adapt the novel that Mrs. Billet had written about her mother. So this is another sort of a memoir, but it's written by a daughter about her mother's experiences during World War II. So the story is about a young woman named Rachel Cohen, who is Jewish, who lives in France. And as the war in Europe has gotten more and more dangerous and difficult for young French people and young Jewish people, she finds that she has to travel around the country with the help of resistance fighters to survive. So the first thing she has to do is leave her beloved school under an assumed name, which is Catherine. So that's where the title of the story comes. And she travels to many different places, farmhouses and resistance cabins in the woods that are run by resistance fighters. She learns so much about herself during all of this, and she learns about how other people can sustain you during very difficult times. But the most important thing she learns about is to cherish the relationships that she's made along the way. So she meets so many wonderful people, so many people that become part of her extended family. So even though she's lost her family, her immediate family to the war, she makes beloved friendships and becomes parts of other people's families. The most special thing about this book is how it's illustrated. So one of Rachel's beloved possessions is a camera that she takes with her on all of the travels that she has throughout France and during the war. She documents many of the people that she meets and the different beautiful scenes that she sees with her camera, and the illustrations often look like the photographs that she's taken, or like old-time photographs that you might see with very mute colors. So it was a really interesting way to illustrate the book, which I really loved, and I thought it brought a lot to the story. So if you like books about World War II, which I know a lot of us do, this is a new perspective on what it was like to live in France and try to survive as a child and a young woman with the help of many, many people along the way. She's eventually returns to Paris and finds her way to one of the many people that she's met along the way and builds a new life. So it's really, it's a happy ending despite all of the ugliness of the war around her. So I hope you try Catherine's War. I think you'll love it.
I'm going to tell you about 5 brand new graphic novels that have come out, and here they are. Stepping Stones by Lucy Nisley is for fans of Raina Tegelmeier's books or people who loved the Sunny Side Up series. You'll love this book. This graphic novel is the first in a series, and it's all about Jen learning to be a stepsister for the first time, and also how to live on a farm during a very transitional summer in middle school. It's awesome. The next is Trespassers by Brenna Bard. If you love mysteries, maybe a little spookiness, then you'll love, or if you love stories about summer camp and like summertime in general, you will love Trespassers. This book is about Gabby and her new friend solving a possible murder mystery. Oh, spooky. And it takes place while they are on vacation at their lake house, and it includes abandoned mansions, suspected neighbors, and break-ins. You'll be on the edge of your seat. It's a really great book. Next is Donut the Destroyer by Sarah Grayley and Steph Perenins. And this book is all about Donut, the Destroyer. Donut does not want to be a villain anymore. She wants to be a hero. She switches to hero school where she makes friends, joins clubs, and tries to prove to everyone, including herself, that she is not like her villainous parents. She is a hero. If you like funny superhero comics or funny fantasy books, this is the graphic novel for you. The next one is Doodleville by Chad Sells, which is just a fun title to say, Doodleville. This book is all about Drew, and when Drew's drawings come to life and start destroying her classmates' art, her friends must come together and fight back to understand one another. Chad Sells wrote Cardboard Kingdom, so if you've read that, you'll love this. If you've also read Awkward or Brave by Svetlana Chimkova, you'll love this book. And finally, the next book I'm going to talk about is Fun World by Yehudi Mercado, and I love this book. It's hilarious. If you love Captain Underpants, if you love Squish, if you love Newts, you'll love this book. It's all about a group of aliens who want to destroy Earth. Yeah, but they land in Fun World, which is just like Disney World. And they realize after spending a lot of time in Fun World, after they think, for a long time, they assume Fun World is just the entire planet. Once they spend some time in Fun World, they realize that they've spent a lot of time destroying and not enough time having fun. All right, let's hear some more graphic novels.
So I'm going to recommend 2 middle grade fantasy graphic novels, but they're very different from one another. The first one is called Cottons, Book 1, Secret of the Wind. So this is the first book in a fantasy trilogy by Jim Pascoe and Heidi Arnold. It is a really rich fantasy world, highly detailed. Everything about it is highly detailed and very well thought out. And it is about, as you can see on the cover, it is about primarily a world populated by rabbits, aka cottons. My first thought when I read this book was just how beautiful it is. The artwork is really, really gorgeous and lush and detailed, and the pacing is really cinematic. So it really sucks you into this really cool fantasy world. There is a lot going on. There are a lot of characters to keep track of, and it really plops you down in this whole new world filled with new terminology and magic and rabbit religions and different customs and hierarchies of society. So there's a lot to keep track of, but I think that some readers really love that kind of book where it really puts you in this interesting world you've never been in before. So the main plot follows this rabbit here. Her name is Bridgebell, and she has kind of a mysterious past and maybe a calling. I don't know if I'd say it's a prophecy, but something is calling her towards something that is probably going to greatly affect the future, because this book sets up kind of the wolves versus the rabbits, light versus dark. Something's building and something's going to happen. Rabbits produce a power called cha in their carrot factory, and they also use cha to make really beautiful artistic sculptures that have some sort of power. And the wolves want to take over the power of cha. And so this book kind of sets up all of that action. It definitely raises a lot more questions than it answers. So you don't get any closure with this story at all, but it is setting everything up because it's book 1 in the trilogy. At the end of the book, there's a whole kind of appendix with details about the world that you've just been in, the land, the history, the religion, the characters. So that's a really fun thing to read after you've read the rest of the book, if you really get into this story. I think that this would be an awesome graphic novel for fans of Warriors or any other series that feature animal characters where there's a really intricate, complex, rich fantasy world that's populated by animals. So if you like that kind of thing, I think you'll really like Cottons. So the next middle grade fantasy graphic novel I'm going to recommend is called The Sunken Tower It's written and illustrated by Tate Howard. You could probably already tell from the cover that this is a funny book. It's a little funnier than Cotton's. It's a lot funnier than Cotton's. This is a standalone book. It's not part of a series. Everything begins and ends. It gets nicely wrapped up in here, and it is definitely humorous. The story begins when this guy, Dig, gets captured by hooded creatures and dragged underground to an intricate labyrinth underground city, and he gets thrown in a dungeon. And he very quickly becomes friends with his cellmates next door, Ayana and Karina. And they give him the backstory that these hooded creatures are members of a blood cult that wants to sacrifice these 3 people to have a ceremony that's going to raise from the dead, resurrect a dark wizard, and somehow this is going to help the hooded creatures. So that's the backstory. That all happens in the first couple pages, and then the primary plot of this book is just action-packed, sword-wielding, smashing monsters' heads, climbing on buildings, running upstairs, lots of witty, silly banter between these characters. So it's really action-packed, it's fast-moving, it's funny, and like I said, it all gets wrapped up at the end. So if you like funny fantasy books, if you like the maybe Adventure Time series, or if you like the Plants vs. Zombies books where it's fantasy but it's also really pretty much funny, I think that you'll probably really like The Sunken Tower.
I'm back again to tell you about 5 more new graphic novels that are awesome. The first is Shirley and Jamila Save Their Summer by Jillian Gores. And it's for fans of Nate the Great, fans of Sherlock Holmes, Nancy Drew, anybody who loves like logical mysteries or puzzles, you'll love this book. Shirley and Jamila come together one summer and they solve a great mystery. Who stole the backpack and the gecko? And why? Find out by reading this book. The next is Babysitter's Little Sister series by Katie Farina. And this series is the second series in the graphic novel Babysitters Club series. I just said series a bunch of times, I'm so sorry. But these 2 books are all about Karen, Christy's little sister, who thinks she's a witch and who tries roller skating for the first time. The first book is called Karen's Witch. The second book is called Karen's Roller Skates. And if you can't get enough of the Babysitters Club, check these out. Next up is Lola, A Ghost Story by Jay Torres, Albert Orr, and Jill Beaton. And this one is about Jesse, and after his grandmother passes away, he must come to terms with his brand new powers that makes him see ghosts, monsters, and demons. And the question that everyone asks is, will he help his grandmother move on, or will he go back home where it's safe from danger? If I would recommend this to anyone who has read The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Next up is All My Friends Are Ghosts, another ghost book by S.M. Vidori and Hannah Krieger. And this is a book for fans of spooky ghost books. I love a spooky ghost book with happy magic. So it's not like scary magic, it's happy magic. So Effie discovers a ghost school and decides to enroll. But the only problem is, she's not a ghost, she's a living person. But she goes to their classes, she learns how to be a ghost, but her identity is really put to the test when she and her friends have to solve a mystery with an evil spirit. Next up is Jackie Haha by James Patterson, Chris Grabenstein, Adam Rao, and Betty C. Tang. Now, this is definitely for fans of Shannon Hale's Real Friends series, or if you've read the novel Jackie Haha by James Patterson and Chris Grabenstein, you'll want to read the graphic novel version. Jackie has been hiding her worries behind her jokes for a very long time, and now she must come to terms with her feelings in order to help her family. It's definitely for fans of realistic fiction. Lastly, for this round, we have a Geronimo Stilton graphic novel. There are so many, but this is a brand new one. It's called Geronimo Stilton's Sewer Rat Stink by Tom Engelberger. And if you've read the Geronimo Stilton novels, if you've read the Geronimo Stilton graphic novels, you'll want to check this one out. It's by the same author and illustrator who did the Origami Yoda series and Inspector Flytrap. It's filled with mystery, it's funny, and it's truly just a wild ride of a story. All right, let's hear about some more graphic novels.
Hi everybody. One of the choose your own graphic novels that I want to tell you about is called When Stars Are Scattered. It's by Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed, and it's actually a memoir graphic novel that was written by a young man named Omar Mohammed, and it was co-written and illustrated by Victoria Jameson, who wrote the Rollover graphic novel that some of you might know. So this book is a memoir about a young man from Somalia who is forced to become a refugee at a very young age. He's separated from his parents and lives in a refugee camp in nearby Kenya with his younger brother Hassan. So the book talks about their life in this gigantic refugee camp called Dadaab, which actually still exists. And you can see pictures of it online if you're curious, which I was, because I wanted to learn more about Omar and what his life in the refugee camp might look like. And what I discovered was the illustrations in this book, When Stars Are Scattered, are very true to life. You get a really true sense of Omar and his life in the refugee camp, and playing soccer and going to school and caring for his younger brother who has special needs. You really get a sense of what it's like to live there. So if you're curious about other parts of the world and the lives that other people lead, you will really enjoy this book. If you like characters who persevere, and that means that they keep trying and never ever give up to try to reach their goals, you will enjoy this book too, because Omar wants nothing more than to go to school and to perhaps live in another country, hopefully either Canada or the United States. And he struggles every day with being patient enough to wait for good things like that to come to him. But he has a lovely life, although difficult and hard and sometimes hungry and uncomfortable and painful sometimes. He perseveres even though his life is quite difficult, and he is a testament to what it means to believe in yourself and to trust people around you to care for you and to help you. So if you want to read about a character who you can learn from, who you can identify with, and who inspires you, please read When Stars Are Scattered. And after you read it, you will know what the title means, which is really, really, really important and poetic. And I think you'll learn a lot about yourself when you read this story. So have fun.
I would also love to recommend to you 2 books about some funny friends, and they are named Chick and Brain. And the first book of their adventures is Smell My Foot, and the second book is called Egg or Eyeball. So you can probably figure out that these are kind of funny, silly titles, which is true. So these are both written and illustrated by Cece Bell, and she has done some other great comics and illustrated works. You're probably familiar with her. People are a big fan of her book El Defo, which is a great graphic memoir for older readers. These 2 books follow the adventures of, like I said, Chick and Brain. Chick thinks it's pretty smart. It's really preoccupied with manners and being polite and always saying please and thank you. And you would think that Brain would be smart because it's a brain, but Brain is actually kind of not too smart and gets very confused by Chick's rules about manners. And so there's a lot of silly confusion and silly situations that happen because Brain doesn't know how to say please and thank you. And when Chick tries to teach Brain how to say please and thank you, things get very confusing. But actually, Brain is pretty smart, and Chick's not too smart because a dog wants to eat Chick. And Chick doesn't even know it because Chick is too preoccupied with manners, but Brain saves the day. So that's what happens in the couple chapters in Smell My Foot. And then in Egg or Eyeball, their friend Dog is back, and they made a new friend, a cat, and Brain is convinced that this small white round thing that it found is an eyeball. But all the other friends are pretty convinced that it's an egg and that Brain is not being very smart, and they're trying to teach Brain about eggs and what eggs are for and where they come from. And Brain is very adamant that no, it's an eyeball. And then the final character in the book says, it is an eyeball. It's mine. But I'm not going to give away the ending and tell you who that is. So these books are really funny. They've got great characters, and there's a lot of more simple vocabulary and a lot of repeated words. So I recommend these a lot to kind of emerging readers in grades, K through 1, K through 2, who love comics, learning how to read on their own, and would love to go on some funny adventures with these friends. Smell My Foot is available via curbside, and it's also available as an ebook on Overdrive. And Egg or Eyeball is available via curbside.
All right, here is my final round of 5 graphic novels that have come out so far this year. The first is The Pathfinder Society, The Mystery of the Moon Tower by Francesco Cedito, Prescott Saradarian, and Steve Haymaker. And this book is definitely for fans of The Mysterious Benedict Society or Mr. Lemoncello's Library. You will love this book if you love like a good mystery. This book is all about a group of summer campers who are trying to solve the mystery of an abandoned castle at the edge of their summer camp. Kind of cool. Don't you want to learn more? Check this book out. Next is Aster and the Accidental Magic by Tom Pico. And Aster accidentally stumbles into some magical mishaps. The biggest one being, she can now only speak to dogs. Can she fix it, or will she bark forever? You gotta read it to find out. And if you are fans of Heidi Heckelbeck or the Princess and the Black series, you will love this book. The next up is Snapdragon by Kate Leigh. This is for fans of the Witch Boy series. If you like fantasy and a little witchery, you'll love this book. It's all about a town that used to have magic, a witch that used to cast spells, and Snap, who may or may not be the key to unlocking it all. Next up is Once Upon a Space Time, by Jeffrey Brown. For fans of Jeffrey Brown's other series like Jedi Academy or the series Sanity and Tallulah, you will want to check out this graphic space novel adventure. It's a lot of words together. And it's all about a class trip to Mars that goes really, really badly, and a few students have to fight for their families and save their school from total destruction. If you like action, adventure, if you love space, check out this graphic novel. Finally, I'm gonna talk about The City of Secrets by Victoria Ying. This is a graphic novel for fans of The Invention of Hugo Cabret, City of Ember, a series of unfortunate events. You'll love this book. Victoria Ying's City of Secrets features mystery, it features adventure, danger, and an orphaned boy trying to survive in a floating city. If that intrigues you, check out this book. All right, let's hear some more graphic novel picks.
So another great graphic novel that I really think you'll like is called Pashmina, and it was written by Nidhi Chinani. It's also sort of a memoir about her experiences as an Indian American in this country. So the story is illustrated in black and white, and it's about a young woman named Priyanka. She's kind of struggling to find her way in high school, and she's kind of shy, and she doesn't fit in that well, but she's an amazing cartoonist, so that sustains her, and she has some good friends, one good friend in particular who helps her just see beyond kind of how small her life is. But she feels kind of stifled. Her mother is very protective, and she's very curious about her heritage in India, and her mother is reluctant to tell her some of the stories about India. So Priyanka is kind of struggling with her own identity and how to learn about herself a little bit. So then luckily there's a way that happens that's really exciting, that she gets to travel to India. But before she goes, she's packing, and she finds a beautiful shawl in her mother's closet. The shawl is called a pashmina. Some of you might have heard that phrase. It's a woven shawl that you wear. Some of them are very beautiful. She tries it on as she's getting ready to travel, and amazingly, it's magical, and it shows her the India that she's always dreamed of. So she wears the shawl, and it's like magical realism, like an elephant and a peacock show her around India, and you go to festivals and sample food and see all the beautiful clothes that people wear. So it's kind of a dream fulfillment that she has. And then she travels to India and meets some of her family and discovers a lot about her mother and herself and what it means to have a lot of different heritages and how special that is. And she learns that you can appreciate what you have with the help of appreciating what you dream of. So, and they work in together, so you can have your dreams and still love your life. So I hope you enjoy Pashmina. I really liked it, and the illustrations are amazing because when she has the dreams with the Pashmina wrapped around her, and she travels to India, it goes to color. So that's really cool too. So most of it is black and white, and then when she's in India, it's in color. So I hope you like it. I think you will, and let me know.
Some very exciting news is that for some reason, September 1st, 2020 is the day that a bunch of your favorite series are releasing new books in graphic novel form. So let's get to it. Dogman, Grime and Punishment comes out September 1st. Akisi, Even More Tales of Mischief comes out September 1st. Big Nate, The Gerbil Ate My Homework comes out September 1st. Happy Narwhal Days, a Narwhal and Jelly book, you guessed it, comes out September 1st. Owlie, Just a Little Blue, which is the second book in the color form of Owlie, comes out September 1st. The Babysitters Club, woo! Logan Likes Marianne, comes out September 1st. The Tea Dragon Tapestry, which is the third book in the trilogy by Kate O'Neill, comes out September 1st. And finally, Phoebe and Her Unicorn, a fan favorite, The Virtual Unicorn Experience, you guessed it, comes out September 1st. Woo! These books will be available to be put on hold probably by the end of August if you're interested in them. Thank you very much for joining us for this month's Choose Your Own Book Club graphic novel edition. All of these books are available to put on hold for curbside pickup, and to do that, you go to our catalog, which will either be linked above or below depending on where you're watching this, and you search the title and you put a hold on it, and then you'll get a confirmation email where you book an appointment to come pick it up. It's pretty easy. And some of these books are available on Libby or Hoopla, so you can also search the catalog to look for them that way. So we hope that one of these books called out to you, if not like 10 of these books called out to you. And we hope to see you next time for another Choose Your Own Book Club. If graphic novels are not your thing, totally understandable. They're not for everyone, but we have this great service in the children's room called the Book Detective. And if you go to our website, which will also be linked above or below, depending on where you're watching this, you can fill out a form with tons of information about books that you might enjoy or books that you've enjoyed in the past, and you answer a bunch of questions, and we will put books on hold for you that we think you would enjoy based off of what you answered. It's a really great service, so check that out definitely. And we hope to see you next time, and we hope to see you at Curbside Pickup. Bye!